My wife said, "Don't you dare bring another record in this house." And that's my final word. Vinyl. I said, "Girl, you got to have a record. A record for bugging me the most about that." She goes, okay. We're going to cover H, I, and J. Not much I, mostly H and J. And we start off with one of the greatest guitarists of all times, and certainly he's in that psychedelic field with his early stuff, and that would be Jimi Hendrix on Reprise. Hey Joe. Hey Joe was a Tim Hardin song, and it was covered by everybody in the 60s. And the backside, the B-side is Foxy Lady. Woo, 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 woo. Great stuff. Thank you, Jimmy. We love that stuff. Okay. Next we have Stone Free. And this is a promo. We love those promos. Not as good as the Columbia Red Vinyls, but it's still nice. And the B-side is If Six Were Nine, which is two great Hendrix songs. Here's the stock copy, again, on the Reprise picture sleeves. I try to match them up. You can't always. Some of these labels are so obscure, you don't have the picture sleeves. Now we got from Electric Ladyland, All Along the Watchtower. Yeah, that's Bob Dylan. That's right, Bob. And Jimmy made a really wonderful cover, probably the best cover it ever made. When you hear that him play this, you think that it was his song to begin with. It's so wonderful. Thanks, Bob. Everybody interprets Bob, even the great Jimmy. And the B-side is Burning in the Midnight Lamp, which is a very nice, evocative late night song about kind of missing a loved one and trying to deal with all the situations. Now, Jimmy died, unfortunately. He was one of the big three that died in 1970 with Janice and Jim. And that's very sad because he was such a great artist. I think he could have done much more great stuff for us. But they did have a lot of recordings in the can from his Electric Ladyland studio. And one of them was a pretty good song here. Freedom, that's what I want now. Freedom. And both sides of freedom. So there's a lot of freedom there. We need a lot of freedom, especially these days. We need that freedom. Here's a song that was well, okay, we'll start off with this side. The Star Spangled Banner. Of course, Jimmy played that at Woodstock, and he was a patriot. He was a paratrooper in the military service until he hurt his back. And then he went on the tour to become a famous musician finally. But it took him a long time. The other side of this, here comes Dolly Dagger. Her love so heavy, gonna make you stagger. Dolly. Yeah, we love that stuff. Jimi Hendrix, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and the Band of Gypsies, and all the things he did. Here we got a cover of Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good, and it's backed with Lover Man. That's Jimmy. He was a lover man for sure. Now there's a bunch of other labels that came out with stuff purported to be by Jimmy. It wasn't that good. A lot of it was. Some of it were live recordings that may have been from his early days before he developed his wonderful style. But one of them that kind of falls in this is an audio fidelity recording, "No Such Animal" by Jimi Hendrix, Part 1 and Part 2. I don't think I've ever played this. I don't have high expectations for it. It might be great, who knows? But I don't think so. You want to avoid those discount labels like Trip and other labels that have Jimi Hendrix recordings. Most of them are terrible stuff. Now, there's another thing that came out when in the I think it was the late '70s. There was a 2-volume greatest hits of Jimi Hendrix record albums that came out, and if you bought, I believe, volume 2, you also got this wonderful one-sided EP of Jimi Hendrix doing Gloria. Glory, yeah, yeah, yeah. So good. And he does a great job with this thing. It's a one-sided track. It's made to be played at 33, not 45. So if you ever get this, it is, I think it does list that there, 33. Yep, 33 and a third. Yeah, but it's a fun little thing. Not essential, but really nice because Jimmy puts his own stamp on everything he covers. And not a lot of great guitar, but some good guitar. Oh, I forgot to mention one of those singles. One of those singles, the B-side was 51st Anniversary, which is pretty obscure. And that's, I don't think that ever went on an album. And 51st Anniversary is about a couple who were celebrating their 51st anniversary. It's not that great, but it's not that bad either. You know, you owe it yourself to listen as much Jimmy as you can. He is the greatest. Okay, now, when I was in vacation with my wife in Rome, in Italy, she let me go to some record stores. And one of the ones I went to was a very strange store, but had some fun stuff. What was strange about it was that none of the records were priced in the store. There was no price stickers, no markings, no stickers. If you wanted to buy something, you took it up to a man who was at a desk and you present it to him. And he would look at it and he'd study it for about maybe 10 seconds and he'd say, 100 lira. It seems like everything that I brought up to him was $10. And I didn't know, maybe I should have said, I'll give you five. I didn't do that. But I got some wonderful picture sleeves. Here's one of them. Hey Joe with Stone Free. This is the Euro version. It's on Polydor Records. And we love those picture sleeves. You know, if you go on eBay, you can get a ton of picture sleeves worldwide for these guys. Which makes, if you have a particular obsession with a particular musician like Jimi Hendrix, you can get a lot of fun stuff. And a lot of it's pretty cheap, too. So there was an American picture sleeve, I believe, of Hey Joe, and it's expensive. I had a chance to buy it for $300. I didn't buy it. Then I had a chance to buy it for $500. I didn't buy it. Now it's $1,000 at least. That's the way it works, isn't it? If you don't buy an expensive item here and now at a reasonable price, you're going to have to pay double for it 10 years ago when you're going to see it. And you may not see it ever again, but if you do, it might take 10 years. So a word to the wise, if you're interested in a particular thing and the price is right, if you know in your heart it's a good price for you, get it. Go for it. That's the way to go, I think. And like I used to work for a guy many years ago, and he told me, he says, if you collect anything, always get the expensive stuff first because that goes sky high. The cheap stuff always stays at the same price. $1 record will always be $1. You might get it for a dime. So get those expensive ones. Here's another one I got in Rome. Purple Haze. This is one of the 51st anniversary I was talking about. And I'm not going to play any of these because, you know. But anyway, that's the obscure B side. I think it appeared on a comp later. It's not definitive, but everything by Jimmy is worth hearing once. If you love somebody, you want to hear it at least once. You know, maybe you like what nobody else does. Here's another one. Foxy Lady. Woo-hoo, with manic depression. Great stuff. Great stuff. Great sleeve too. Kind of a lens here. You got Jimmy. You put these together, it'd probably be yeah. Who knows? Anyway, this is the Polydor. And here's the last one in that group. Crosstown traffic. Try to get to you from Electric Ladyland with Gypsy. I love you, Gypsy. Yeah, we love that stuff. So that was my Rome haul. Now we're going to talk about a group that was kind of a type of flower pop type psych, and that would be the Hobbits. The Hobbits. And these aren't that good. Daffodil Days. Daffodil Days. And this one is Sunny Day Girl. That might be good. The Hobbits' first album, I think, is really good pop psych. The second one, Men and Doors Communicate, not as good. But if you like a particular genre, you're going to want to get it. So here's another one, and you know this one. The Human Beings. No, 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 no. Nobody but me, girl. And it's back with Sueño, which is the Human Beings had a number of great albums. And I talked about that in my albums. The first album on Capitol is brilliant. Their second album on Capitol, the green cover, is also excellent, excellent psych. There's also a Exploito label. Apparently, Human Beings released Nobody But Me on a minor label first, and they rushed out with an album after the Human Beings became famous. But that's pretty decent. Not that great, but it's got a great psychedelic cover. And you can see that when you look at my albums, my psychedelic albums. Okay, here's another one. Not necessarily psych, but it's such a weird obscurity. I got to mention this. And that's the Ivies. You might see this sometime. Ivies. You go, Ivies? Well, that's actually, these guys are actually Badfinger. And this was the first recording. And one of these songs did pretty good. Yeah, Maybe Tomorrow. And it's on the Apple label, the Beatles label. Not psych though. This next one, holy moly! Here we go. It's Jacobson and Tamsley. Jacobson and Tamsley, a two-sided brilliant psych. I'm going to give you a little taste of it. We're going to start off with I Knew You, which I've got written down here as a 5-star psych pop. I Knew You.
I knew you back when, babe, you were 15, babe.
There's lead guitar running through the whole thing. Very kind of psyche, mystical Oriental style.
But you knew
Having some technical difficulties.
nothing is the same. That was a simple thing, babe. No trouble inside it.
So it's very moody, like the Beau Brummels, those kind of guys. Now I'm going to play you just a little bit of the B side. Keep it under 20 seconds. These local unknowns are the most fun when you find them, and you will find them. There's probably a guide somewhere online. Well, there's many guides. Tell you what's good.
This is for really just fine. Said, maybe girl, say your mind. Never mind, drift on and on. Never mind, drift on. Swing with me, 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 swing with me. Hold your hands out close.
Again, it's kind of moody. It's I knew you back then, when I knew you back when, babe. That's a, this is on this very weird label here. Film. I've heard of these guys. Filmways Records. Filmways. So I'd have to guess they were probably involved with like educational films and stuff. And this is a sideline. A friend told me one time that back in the 60s, every community had a recording studio. Maybe it's a high school. Maybe it was a local business. You know, people like to record 78s and give them as happy birthday presents or Mother's Day presents. And of course, during the Second World War, there was a lot of email, and people were able to mail flexi discs, or actually they were hard discs, back to people at home, so the soldiers and sailors could send their feelings. So the idea that of these local labels everywhere, local recording studios and companies and publishing companies, made it possible for a lot of people like these guys, Jacobson and Tansley, to come out with a single. And even though it didn't do much, sometimes it did great things. One of the groups we're going to talk about pretty soon, he had a local label. He recorded his first single on Snap Records, and it became a huge success. So maybe you can guess who that is. We're going to talk about him pretty soon, but that's coming up. Next, right now, we have, what? Hey, we got the Snap label. And his guy's original name was Tommy Jackson. Tommy Jackson, who became Tommy James. My baby does the hanky panky. My baby, which is it's kind of, I guess it's not psych so much, but his later stuff was very heavy psych. Now the cool thing about this, it is signed by the band. So Tommy, the Shondells too. Here says, "All the best, Tommy Jackson," before it became Tommy James. And the other band members here, we got Larry Covendale and Jim Payne. I think they were part of the Shondells. They certainly recorded this, the original version of Hanky Panky. Back side of this is called Thunderbolt. Sounds like a surf instrumental or something. Thunderbolt. That's good. Good stuff. Of course, Tommy James went on to do a lot of psychedelics. But before he did, he recorded 2 singles on his local Snap label. And that was, he worked for a record store in Niles, Michigan. And he says right in here, he says, "To my favorite bosses, Jester," or something like that. And it says down here, "all the best, always, Ron Dickerson." Yeah, I can't quite read that. I think Tommy's on the other side here. I hope he is. Let's open up and see what we got. The other side autograph too? Nope, that's it. So maybe these are the other 2 members of the Shondells. So they recorded. This is a pretty little Redbird, and the other side is called Penny Wishing Well. So some early Tommy James and the Shondells. And it just back then they were just called the Shondells, not Tommy James and the Shondells. But that's okay. Apparently the band members saw that, well, Tommy is providing most of the inspiration, so let's give him a greater exposure here. Why not? Now we've got Crystal Blue Persuasion. It's a new sensation. And that's kind of dreamy, kind of scenic, and kind of mild psychedelia, I'd say. Here's an early picture sleeve. Mirage and Run Run Baby Run. And there you can see Tommy James in the middle and the Shondells surrounding him. And Tommy James is still around. And if I know, I've seen YouTube videos of interviews he's done, and he talked about the Roulette Records and all the business that was going on there. And he also hosts Little Steven's Underground for the Underground radio station on Sirius. So Tommy James, thank you, man. You've done a lot of great stuff for us. Here's another one, Getting Together and Real Girl. Another picture sleeve. We love those picture sleeves. Okay, now we're ready for a San Francisco band that originated as part of it was called the Great Society with the Slick brother and sister. And they merged with another band called Jefferson Airplane. And they became the Jefferson Airplane. And one of their first big hits, "Somebody to Love, Don't You Want Somebody to Love? You Better Find Somebody to Love." So this was a Grace Slick composition. One of the 2 songs she brought with her from the Great Society, the other one being White Rabbit. And those were 2 of the biggest hits. She Has Funny Cars on the B-side. And here we go with some more picture sleeves. Jefferson Airplane leather. So it's very psychedelic. I think Jefferson Airplane is probably the ultimate San Francisco psychedelic band. Back in the '60s, they were one of my favorite bands, and I got to see them twice. So I was glad for that. I was grateful for that opportunity. But this is kind of a goofy picture sleeve. It's on the Orange RCA, but it's got the great song. The B-side of this is "Crown of Creation." You are the crown of creation. Crown of creation. And that is definitely one of the great songs by Paul Kantner. It's kind of a comeback from that album, Crown of Creation. After Bathing at Baxter's didn't do as well as the Surrealistic Pillows, so Crown of Creation was a great comeback album, very solid album. And that's the single from it. Then they came out with their first live album, and here's a picture sleeve of that with Plastic Fantastic Lover and The Other Side of This Life. That's The Other Side of This Life, which a lot of San Francisco bands covered. But certainly Plastic Fantastic Lover. That's a great song. Kind of a takedown of women who spend all their times at the beauty parlor or something. Plastic Fantastic Lover. It's almost like a Frank Zappa theme, I would say. I think the Jefferson Airplane's last greatest album was the one called Volunteers. Here's a single from it. Volunteers of America, Volunteers of America, yeah. Okay, I didn't quite get that in tune. It's on the Orange label. And this is a great album. I mean, it's a wonderful album. And when you open up, it's a gatefold. Inside, there's peanut butter on one side and jelly on the other. So you make a peanut butter just eat it up. Don't eat the album. They follow that with some other albums. Not, I don't think they're quite as good. They have their moments, and certainly Grace Slick came out with a composition which was very, very important for women's rights. And it's you're only pretty as you feel inside. You're only pretty as you feel. Great, great attitude. Very cosmic. And the fun thing about this picture sleeve, it matches the sleeve that was put on the cover of the album, which was a brown paper bag with this logo in the middle, which trying to spoof a grocery chain, which is no longer around. It's called A&P, Atlantic and Pacific. So this is a spoof of the A&P logo on a paper bag. It's like when you buy this, I got a paper bag already. But it's fun. The album wasn't that great. That song was very important, I think, for feminist rights. Now, while I was in Europe, I got to go to the Paris flea market. And if you're ever over there, try it out if you're a record hound, because you'll find stuff there. I did. And the most fun things I found were EPs. Now, I think the Euros love the EPs a lot more. For one thing, a lot of albums only got 4 good songs on them anyway. So, but the fidelity may or may not be as good as the album, and certainly there's the ease of albums. So if you got a 5-star album, you're going to play it through anyway. But if you got an artist where you don't like everything, but you want some of the stuff, EP I suppose was pretty cool. In the States, they never took off. I bought an EP. I bought a DJ EP. It was one of the first records I ever bought back in 1963, but hardly anybody bought EPs. The way to go was the LP. Anyway, it's a long story. This is the EP I got in the Paris flea market, a Surrealistic Pillow by Jefferson Airplane. I just love these. It's on the RCA label, but it's blue and silver. And if you look at the back of these, they list the tracks. They don't give you much information about the band or anything. And it's got a little tab on here. Jefferson Airplane. Again, if you're a completist or you just like having as much of a particular artist because you love that artist, you love all the love they gave to you, you probably want to get stuff like that. I did. Now, this is the last the record I'm going to talk about today, and it's also Jefferson Airplane. And a little story behind it. Um, in the late, I think it was late 80s, sometime around there, maybe early 80s. Early 80s must have been, because CDs were around in the late 80s. Early 80s, they came out with the new best hits. I think it was a double album of Jefferson Airplane. And in order to promote that, they came out with one of their greatest records, and that was White Rabbit. Now, what makes this one so special, you might ask? Well, it's got a nice picture sleeve. Oh, but there's more. They pressed the vinyl on white white vinyl. Isn't that cool? White Rabbit on white vinyl. Mhm. Now, the B side is Plastic Fantastic Lover, which is a great composition. Yeah, the album is called 2400 Fulton Street, an anthology album to describe the history of the Jefferson Airplane. And they had a great history. So that's it for H, no I, well, one I, Ivy's, and J. And tune in with me next week, kids. We're going to have some fun and see what we can find.